Hello everyone. Today's video will help you improve your listening skills and pronunciation in English. I suggest you pause after each sentence and try to repeat what I say. This will help you practice speaking naturally. On the coastal city of Santa Barbara, a surfer named Emma was about to discover that sometimes the line between life and death is thinner than we imagine. When a mysterious doctor saves her from drowning and then vanishes without a trace, Emma's search for answers will lead her to an impossible truth about love, loss, and the power of second chances. What she finds will challenge everything she believes about who can save us when we need help the most. My name is Emma. I'm 28 years old. I live in Santa Barbara, California. I work at a small cafe near the beach, making coffee for surfers and tourists. Every morning before work, I surf at Hendry's beach. The waves there are perfect for beginners. That Tuesday started like any other day. I woke up at 5:30. I made my usual green tea. I grabbed my surfboard and walked to the beach. But something felt different that morning. The ocean looked angry. The waves were bigger than usual. I should have stayed on the shore. But I didn't listen to that voice in my head. I paddled out anyway. I had moved to Santa Barbara 3 years earlier after my father died. He was a fisherman in Maine. He taught me to love the ocean, but he also taught me to respect its power. The sea remembers everything, he used to say. It gives life and takes it away. I thought about his words that morning as I watched the dark clouds gathering on the horizon. I loved my simple life in Santa Barbara. My days followed the same quiet rhythm. Wake up, surf, work, sleep. I lived in a tiny apartment 3 blocks from the beach. I could hear the ocean from my bedroom window. My life was calm, predictable, safe. I liked it that way. At the cafe, I knew everyone's order by heart. Mrs. Chen always ordered a small cappuccino with extra foam. Jake, the local lifeguard, always got a large black coffee and a blueberry muffin. I made their drinks the same way every day. There was comfort in routine. My coworkers often asked why I never dated anyone. The truth was, I was afraid of getting too close to people. After losing my father, I built walls around my heart. The ocean was the only thing I trusted completely. It was honest about its dangers. But that Tuesday morning changed everything. The wave hit me harder than I expected. My board flew out from under me. I felt the ocean pull me down, deeper and deeper. Salt water filled my lungs. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't see the surface. Panic took over my body. In that moment, I thought about my father. I wondered if this was how he felt during his last moments at sea. His boat had been found empty after a storm. His body was never recovered. Now I understood the terror he must have experienced. Then suddenly, strong arms wrapped around me. Someone pulled me up. I felt air hit my face again. I coughed up water and gasped for breath. A man's voice said, "You're okay. I've got you." I opened my eyes. He had dark hair and kind brown eyes. He wore a wetsuit with diving equipment. He swam with me back to shore, supporting my weight with one arm. On the beach, he checked my pulse and breathing. His hands were gentle but sure. "Are you hurt?" he asked. I shook my head. I was too shocked to speak. Water dripped from his hair onto the sand between us. There was something familiar about his touch, like I had felt those hands before in a dream. "Good. Stay here for a few minutes. Let your body recover. He started to walk away. "Wait!" I called out. "What's your name?" He turned back and smiled. "Daniel." I looked down at his wetsuit. There was a name tag on his chest, but the letters were too faded to read clearly. I could only make out part of it. It looked like it said Doctor something. There was also a small silver cross hanging from a chain around his neck. "Are you a doctor?" I asked, but when I looked up, he was gone. I searched the beach, but I couldn't see him anywhere. It was like he had disappeared into the morning mist. The only proof he had been there was the wet sand where he had knelt beside me the next week. I couldn't stop thinking about Daniel. I asked other surfers if they knew him. I checked with the local dive shops. No one had heard of a doctor who went diving at Hendry's beach. I even called the hospital, but they said no doctors worked there named Daniel who matched his description. I started going to the beach earlier, hoping to see him again. I brought an extra cup of coffee just in case. But he never appeared. I began to wonder if I had imagined the whole thing. Maybe the lack of oxygen had made me hallucinate. My friend Sarah, who worked at the cafe with me, noticed I was distracted. "You've been different since your accident," she said one afternoon. "What aren't you telling me?" I told her about Daniel. She listened carefully, then said something that surprised me. "My grandmother always said that sometimes the dead help the living. Maybe your guardian angel has a face." 3 weeks later, I was walking home from work when I saw a familiar face. Daniel was sitting at a small table outside a restaurant downtown. My heart jumped. I walked over quickly. "Daniel! I've been looking for you everywhere." He looked confused. "I'm sorry. Do we know each other?" I stared at him. It was definitely the same man. Same dark hair, same brown eyes, same gentle hands. But he was wearing a suit instead of a wetsuit. His name tag said, Dr. Daniel Martinez, cardiologist, and there was no silver cross around his neck. "You saved me," I said. 3 weeks ago. At the beach. You pulled me out of the water." He shook his head slowly. "I think you have me confused with someone else. I don't surf or dive. I work at the hospital. I haven't been to the beach in months." My face felt hot. "But you said your name was Daniel. You had a doctor's name tag." "My name is Daniel, yes. And I am a doctor. But I've never seen you before in my life." I felt foolish. "I'm sorry. You just look exactly like someone I met." But as I walked away, something bothered me. When I mentioned the beach, I saw a flash of something in his eyes. Recognition? Fear? Pain? I couldn't tell. And his voice was slightly different from the man who had saved me. This Daniel's voice was higher, more cautious. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the way Daniel's expression changed when I mentioned the beach. The next day, I decided to do some research. I went to the hospital and asked about Dr. Daniel Martinez. The receptionist told me he was an excellent doctor. He had been working there for 2 years. But then she said something strange. Dr. Martinez used to be a rescue diver before he became a cardiologist. He saved many people in water accidents. But he stopped diving after something happened. I don't know the details. He used to volunteer with the Coast Guard on weekends. My heart started beating faster. When did he stop? About 3 months ago, I think. Right after his brother died. Brother? What happened to his brother? The receptionist looked around nervously. I probably shouldn't say this, but they were twins. Dr. Michael Martinez. He was also a doctor here. Very sad story. I left the hospital with more questions than answers. Why would Daniel lie about saving me? What had happened 3 months ago that made him stop diving? And what had happened to his twin brother? I decided to find out. I searched online for local water rescues in the past few months. Most articles were about Coast Guard operations or lifeguard saves. But then I found something that made my blood run cold. The headline read, "Local doctor dies in diving accident." The article was dated 4 months ago. It was about Dr. Michael Martinez, a cardiologist and volunteer rescue diver. Michael had died trying to save a drowning swimmer at Hendry's beach. The swimmer had also died. I stared at the screen. The photo showed 2 brothers standing together on a boat. Daniel and Michael looked almost identical. Both had dark hair and brown eyes. Both were doctors. Both were divers. But there was one difference I noticed immediately. Michael wore a silver cross necklace in every photo. The article said Michael had been diving alone that day, against safety protocols. He had heard someone screaming for help and had gone in without backup. By the time the Coast Guard arrived, both Michael and the drowning man were gone. Their bodies were found 3 hours later. Now I understood. Daniel had stopped diving after his brother died. When I saw him at the restaurant, he probably didn't want to remember that painful time. Maybe he was trying to protect himself from more grief. But I still had one question. If Daniel stopped diving 3 months ago, who saved me 3 weeks ago? I walked back to Hendry's beach that evening. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. I sat on the sand where Daniel had pulled me to safety. I closed my eyes and tried to remember every detail of that morning. The man who saved me had the same face as Dr. Daniel Martinez. But there were small differences. His hands were slightly rougher, like someone who spent more time in the water. His voice was a little deeper, more confident. And his name tag, the one I could barely read, had said Dr. Martinez, Michael, Dr. Michael Martinez. But that was impossible. Michael had died 4 months ago. I opened my eyes. The beach was empty except for one figure walking along the water's edge. As he got closer, I recognized the familiar silhouette. It was Daniel. The real Daniel from the restaurant. He sat down next to me on the sand. "You were right," he said quietly. "I did save you." In a way. I looked at him, confused. "Michael was my twin brother," he continued. "We looked almost exactly alike. People used to say we shared the same soul. After he died, I couldn't go near the water. I was too afraid, too angry. I blamed myself for not being there when he needed help." Daniel picked up a handful of sand and let it fall through his fingers. "Michael died on a Tuesday morning, exactly 1 month before you had your accident. Same beach, same conditions. He went in alone to save someone, and he never came out." I felt chills run down my spine. "The same beach?" "Yes, and there's something else you should know. The day Michael died, he was wearing his lucky cross necklace, the one our grandmother gave him. After the funeral, I kept it in my car. I couldn't bear to look at it." Daniel paused, staring at the waves. 3 weeks ago, I was driving past the beach on my way to work. I saw someone in trouble in the water. I saw you. For a moment I froze. But then I heard Michael's voice in my head telling me to help. So I parked my car, grabbed the diving gear Michael always kept in my trunk, and went in after you. But you said you didn't remember me. I lied. I was scared. When I pulled you out of the water, I was wearing Michael's wetsuit and his name tag. And somehow, his cross necklace was around my neck. I have no memory of putting it on. Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out a small silver cross on a chain. After I saved you, I found this in my car. But I know I left it at home that morning. I've been trying to convince myself it was just adrenaline, that I was confused. But I can't explain how his necklace got around my neck. But you told me your name was Daniel. No. Daniel said softly. I told you my name was Daniel because that's who I am. But in that moment saving you, I felt like I was Michael. I felt his presence so strongly that I could barely tell where he ended and I began. We sat in silence for a while, watching the waves roll in and out. Why did you come here tonight? I asked, because I realized something. Michael didn't die so I could live in fear. He died doing what he loved, helping people. When I saved you, I felt close to him again. I felt like myself again. And I think you deserve to know the truth. Daniel reached into his other pocket and pulled out a faded name tag. This was Michael's, he said, handing it to me. Dr. Martinez. I was wearing it the day I saved you. I held the tag carefully. The letters were worn, but I could read Michael's name clearly now. Keep it, Daniel said. Michael would have liked you. You don't give up easily. Just like him. How do you know Michael would have liked me? Daniel smiled sadly. Because you made me want to live again. And Michael always said that the people worth saving are the ones who make others want to be better. 3 months later, Daniel and I were sitting at the same table outside the restaurant where I had first approached him. He was wearing casual clothes instead of his hospital scrubs. We had been meeting for coffee every week since that evening on the beach. Our relationship had grown slowly. Daniel was still healing from losing Michael, and I was learning to trust again after years of keeping people at a distance. But there was something special between us, something that felt bigger than just the two of us. I have something to tell you, Daniel said, looking nervous. I waited. I've decided to start diving again. Not for rescues. The Coast Guard handles that now. Just for myself. For Michael. And I was wondering if you'd like to learn. I smiled. I'd love to. Daniel reached across the table and took my hand. Michael used to say that the ocean gives and takes in equal measure. I never understood what he meant until I met you. I squeezed his hand. What do you think he meant? The ocean took Michael away from me. But it also brought you into my life. And through you, I found my way back to the water. Back to myself. I reached into my purse and pulled out Michael's name tag, which I had been carrying every day since Daniel gave it to me. I've been thinking about Michael a lot. Do you think he knew? Do you think he sent you to save me? Daniel looked at the tag, then at me. I don't know. But I know that before I met you, I was drowning on dry land. And now I feel like I can breathe again. As we walked back toward the beach that evening, I thought about second chances. Sometimes they come from the people we lose. Sometimes they come from the people we find. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, they come from both. Daniel and I stood at the water's edge, watching the sunset. The waves were gentle now, lapping quietly at our feet. In my pocket, Michael's name tag felt warm against my fingers. I knew that some gifts are meant to be treasured, not returned. Do you still feel him? I asked. Michael, I mean, Daniel nodded. Especially here. But it's different now. Before, his presence felt like grief. Now it feels like blessing. The ocean had given me more than my life back. It had given me a future with someone who understood the weight of both loss and hope. And maybe, just maybe, it had given us both a guardian angel who looked just like the man I loved. We walked home together, our hands intertwined, our hearts finally at peace with the tides that had brought us together. If this story helped you practice your English listening skills, please like this video and subscribe for more stories. Leave a comment below and tell me what you thought about my story with Daniel.